A serialized web novel went unread, its chapters consistently gaining only a single view. Dokura stares at a screen displaying the web novel 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, questioning in frustration why no one reads the story he considers a masterpiece. The web novel statistics list 3,109 total episodes, an average view count of 1.9, and an average comment count of 1.08. Dokcha sits on a train, focused on a web novel displayed on his phone, and he considers the story's length of over 3,000 episodes, knowing he is the only reader to have completed it over the last 10 years. The narrator states that back then, he had no idea. A monstrous horned creature crushes a human figure in its massive hand, its purple eyes glowing intensely as fire and debris erupt around them. Dokia stands amidst fallen bodies with his sword drawn, facing a massive dragon that roars at him while 2 other monstrous beasts stand beside it. I finished the web novel on that day. A massive metallic vehicle speeds past, leaving a motion blur and a trail of red sparks in its wake. A horned creature's head appears within the subway car, causing the other passengers to recoil in terror. Dokcha stares at the being, his eyes wide with horrified recognition. He looks at a blurry smartphone screen displaying the title 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse and realizes he knows how the story goes. Doksha, Sangha, and the surrounding crowd stare down with shocked expressions, murmuring in fear at a small horned creature on the ground below them. The story he had been reading alone for the past 10 years turned into reality. Dokcha and Sangha stand together, looking out over a city under attack as glowing rays and debris fall from the sky onto the buildings below. A powerful impact radiates a bright flash of light and showers the area with sparks. Dokia stands at the epicenter of a massive explosion, the ground shattering beneath him as debris and energy erupt outwards. Dokja fiercely swings his sword, shattering a large dark object in a burst of explosive energy as he shouts. Doksha's eye narrows with intense focus as glowing red and orange particles begin to swirl around him. Namwoon and Dokcha clash their swords, causing glowing energy to erupt from the impact and send debris flying. Namwoon screams at him, "WHO, the hell are you?" Doksha's eye glows with an orange light, his focus sharpening on his target. Doksha slams his sword against his opponents, locking their blades in a tense struggle as they stand surrounded by debris. Dokcha charges forward with his blade, running through an explosion of light and debris. Dokcha smiles with determination, sweat covering his face as glowing particles float around him. Dokcha hovers his hand over his phone screen, which displays the final episode of a webtoon. He says he is too nervous to open it. Dokcha looks at his smartphone with hopeful anticipation, but his expression shifts to one of absolute shock as he reads the final words on the screen. Dokya's index finger taps on a digital screen showing Episode 1 and a list of odd numbers. He became the only person who knew how the world was going to end. Dokja, Huiwon, and Sangha stand together on a reflective surface of water, looking out towards the sunrise on the distant horizon under a starry sky. The web novel's final text displays a message about 3 ways to survive the apocalypse, explaining that while everything is fading and unclear, one thing is certain: the reader will survive, followed by the words, "The End." The text on the screen displays the title 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, Final Episodes, by the author TLS123. Dokcha stares at his smartphone, his eyes wide with shock as he reads the final chapter notification for the web novel 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. Dokcha swipes his thumb across his phone screen, reading the anticlimactic final page of the novel 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. Dokya holds a device in his hand, its screen displaying the partial message, "HE End." Dokya sits on the subway in a business suit, his attention completely focused on his phone screen as other passengers sit beside him. Dokya holds his smartphone and looks up with a surprised expression as a rattling sound starts. The story begins its prologue, titled 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. A train car moves along its tracks, its windows reflecting the sky, as a voice introduces himself as Dokcha. Dokcha explains this is how he introduces himself to others, adding that people misunderstand him 9 times out of 10. 3 silhouetted figures converse in an office as one asks if the other is an only child. The second figure confirms this but states that it is not what he meant, prompting the first to ask for clarification. Dokcha holds up his employee ID card, which displays the name Dokcha Kim, and states his father gave him the name so he would grow up to be a strong and independent person. Dokwa faces away and scratches the back of his head, explaining his name is a curse that has kept him lonely and single, causing the other man's expression to shift to one of understanding. Dokcha Kim is a 28-year-old contractor for a subsidiary of a large corporation, having graduated from a third-rate college. Dokcha sits on the subway after work, reading a serialized web novel on his smartphone. Dokcha sits on the subway in his suit and backpack, staring intently at his smartphone. Dokja startles as a voice suddenly addresses him, his eye widening in shock. Dokja steps forward, observing a woman from behind as she looks at a smartphone. Sangha turns to face Dokja, looking down at him with a subtle smile as he stares back in shock, recognizing her as Sangha Yu from the HR department. Dokja sits on a crowded subway and speaks to a woman standing over him, asking if she is also heading home. Sangha smiles, explaining she was lucky her team manager was away on a business trip, and Dokja flinches in response. Dokja stands surprised and flustered in close proximity to Sangha, recognizing her as the most popular girl from work and noticing the nice scent of her shampoo. Sangha maintains a composed expression as she asks if he usually takes the subway home. Sangha and Dokja sit together on public transport, where she tells him someone stole her bicycle. Dokja asks if she bikes to work, and Sangha confirms she does for exercise due to overtime, adding she also has personal reasons. Dokja observes Sangha's smile, internally acknowledging why other men are infatuated with her, but he dismisses the thought as irrelevant, concluding that they live in completely different worlds. Sangha was not the reason why the subway ride was different. Sangha sits on the subway studying her phone, which displays a Spanish phrase asking to borrow money. Dokja watches her as she explains the meaning. He silently questions her diligence and wonders where she would ever use that specific sentence. Sangha leans in playfully, asking Dokja what he's reading on his phone as he looks at the screen with a subtle smile. Dokja enthusiastically shows his phone to Sangha as Huiwen sits beside them with a neutral expression. Dokja holds his e-reader, the screen displaying the title World After the Apocalypse and the beginning of its first chapter, which describes a desolate world with gigantic towers and demolished buildings. Sangha expresses her love for novels, listing her favorite authors as Murakami Haruki, Raymond Carver, and Han Kung before asking Dokja for his. Dokja thinks to himself that she would not know his favorite author even if he told her, concluding he can never tell her what he really reads. Dokja's eyes are wide as he thinks to himself that his hobby is reading serialized web novels on the subway on his way home from work. A hand scrolls through webtoon titles on a digital screen, pausing on 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, as an internal thought explains that this hobby is the reason today is unlike any other day. The web novel, 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, or TWSA, which has been read for the past 10 years, is ending today. Dokja looks at his phone screen, which shows the final episodes of the web novel 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, each chapter having only 1 view and 1 comment. He considers why this story is so special to him, recalling that he has read the series since 8th grade. A younger, bruised Dokja sits in his school uniform by a bookshelf, engrossed in his smartphone as he recalls reading it while being bullied at school. Dokja sits alone on a campus bench, looking at his phone while other students socialize around him, recalling the time he failed his entrance exams and ended up at a third-rate college. Dokja sits at a desk in his military uniform, looking at a computer screen. Dokja looks at his smartphone with a somber expression, reflecting on his unstable life as a contract worker and concluding that he has no happy memories. He finds it bittersweet that the fictitious world he followed for so many years was now coming to an end, as today is the day the epilogue of TWSA will be uploaded. Dokja sits on the train, his eyes fixed on his phone as he thinks about the grand 3149 episode serial, a 10-year journey from his teens to adulthood, and he cannot believe it ran for so long with an average view count of just 1. Dokja stands before a screen, observing a list of webtoon chapters with steadily declining view counts that have dropped from 1,200 to just 1. He realizes he is the only person left reading the story. Dokja's finger highlights his own comment, where he thanked the author and looked forward to the epilogue, recalling that he wanted to donate but could only afford to write a message. Dokja stands in a group and looks at his phone while Sangha turns to address him. A male coworker comments that it's their 1-year work anniversary. Dokja stares, realizing he forgot Sangha was present and internally decides he needs to change the topic. Dokja and a woman with light brown hair face each other and laugh while reminiscing about how their contracts are ending soon. Huiwen stares with wide, shocked eyes as the shadowy figure of Bihyun watches her with an amused grin. Sangha was promoted to a full-time employee last month due to her diligence. Dokja and Sangha sit next to each other on the subway train. Sangha speaks to Dokja with a flustered expression while he listens to her conversation about work. Sangha holds a stack of documents, her expression a mix of thoughtfulness and slight surprise. Sangha calls out Dokja's name, a single tear rolling down her cheek. Dokja's eye narrows with calculating intensity as he offers to reveal the name of the app he uses. Dokja's gaze intensifies with determination as he contemplates being in a different genre. Dokja contemplates his life genre, his thoughts focusing on the image of a large cockroach. A young Dokja sits between 2 adults on a train, holding an insect cage in his lap. Dokja sits on the train between Sangha and another woman, staring forward as he contemplates a question. He ponders whether he could have been the protagonist. The subway car shakes violently, throwing the passengers off balance as they stumble into each other. Sangha looks over with concern, her expression shifting to confusion as the man beside her speaks to her. Dokya looks sideways with a slight, confident smirk. Dokya declares that the genre of his life is non-fiction. Dokya stands on a crowded train, concluding that he is not a protagonist, but merely a reader who must live his own life. Sangha looks on with a concerned expression, her gaze fixed on the lower legs and feet of the person standing before her. A man in a suit smiles down at Dokya, sarcastically calling him inspiring and then asking if he misheard. Sangha pumps her fists and declares that she should also live her own life, but then her expression shifts to confusion as Dokya stands beside her smiling. Dokya looks back at Sangha with a sly expression, declaring he will strive to live life to the fullest while privately thinking that his words at least got her to stop talking, as Sangha watches him with a surprised but determined gaze. Dokya holds his smartphone as it vibrates in his hands with an incoming notification. Dokya holds his smartphone and looks at the screen, thinking about a message he received in the past and how he had no idea of its importance at the time. A system notification box appears, displaying the message, "Thank you," over a button. Dokya looks at his smartphone with a questioning expression as he reads the username, TLS123. His eyes widen in shock when he realizes it is the author of TWSA, and he becomes apprehensive about what will happen to him next. The user TLS123 sends a message reading, "Thank you," and a second notification immediately pops up with the question, "Are you the author of TWSA?" A message box from the user TLS23 appears, stating that they were able to finish their story and win a prize in a contest. Dokya covers his mouth, his eyes wide with shock as he stares intently at his smartphone. A message offers congratulations and asks about the contest, while the reply clarifies it was a small contest and announces the series will soon become paid content. A notification announces that the epilogue for TSA is now paid content and offers a special present in exchange for the reader's email address. Two glowing golden-ridged horns rise from the top of a creature's white-furred head against a black background. The world's fate was now in question. Dokya holds his phone, reading a message from the authored TLS123s who thanks him for helping to publish their story and asks about sending a present, which he internally questions. Dokya holds two fingers up to his eye, his expression thoughtful as he speculates about an embarrassing contest. Dokya sits next to Sangha, wondering if the present is a gift card, and his smartphone buzzes with a notification for a new message. Dokya receives an email notification from a sender named TLS123, realizing it's the present he was waiting for. He reads the message, which states that the novel TWSA will become paid content at 7 p.m. Dokya sees the current time is 6:05 p.m. and understands he has only 5 minutes left. Dokya thoughtfully looks at his smartphone to check his favorites, but his expression suddenly changes to surprise. Dokya looks at his phone, seeing a "no results were found" message, and he wonders if serials get removed without notice when they become paid content. Dokya sits inside a dimly lit subway car, staring at his phone while the passengers around him do the same. A woman sits next to Dokya in a vehicle, holding a smartphone and looking at its screen with a surprised expression as she starts to speak. The subway car shakes violently, its structure beginning to break apart as sparks fly from the ceiling. Dokya and Sangha brace themselves while other passengers are thrown from their seats, screaming amidst the falling debris. A creature's maw hangs open, its sharp, dripping teeth surrounded by a faint aura as it pants heavily. The side of a train car erupts in smoke and flying sparks from a sudden impact. Dokya steadies a frightened Sangha as passengers fall around them in the chaotic train car filled with glowing blue particles. He asks if she is okay while she questions what is happening. Dokya tells her not to worry, trying to reassure her. A digital clock ticks over from 6:59 p.m. to 7:00 p.m. Dokya's eyes glow with a blue aura as he looks up, realizing by sheer coincidence that it is 7 p.m. and the paid content has begun. An emergency announcement stammers over the intercom, ordering an immediate evacuation, causing the passengers, including Dokya and Sangha, to react with distress and confusion. Dokya and Sangha stand within a glowing space, looking startled and confused by an unseen event as Dokya asks what is going on. Dokya's eyes glow with a faint blue light as a rhythmic heartbeat sound echoes around him. Dokya, Namwoon, and Sangha are engulfed by a sudden flash of red and white light erupting in the confined space. Dokya recoils in surprise, shielding his face with his hand as glowing particles crackle and surround his body. The subway car glitches with red and blue energy, causing the passengers to react in shock and fear. Hwaewon looks around in confusion as a system message announces the end of the free service and the start of the main scenario. He realized in that moment that the genre of his life had changed. Someone exclaims that a dokayebi has sprung into view. Dokja and the other passengers shield their eyes as a flash of light and particles erupts inside the subway car. Doka stares forward with wide eyes, sweat on his face as a sudden thought strikes him while a faint silhouette stands behind him. The subway car stops, and the cabin lights go out, plunging the interior into darkness. Doksha stands inside the crowded subway car as it comes to a sudden stop, causing the passengers to look around in confusion. Sangha stands beside him with a concerned expression while glowing particles begin to float in the air. He recognizes the scene as the beginning of a story he knows well. Sangha's mouth hangs open in shock as a bead of sweat rolls down her temple, and she questions if she is truly seeing a dokaibi. Dokja speaks inside the crowded subway car, causing Sangha and the other passengers to turn and stare at him with startled expressions. Dokja's eyes widen in complete shock, his mind refusing to accept the impossible situation unfolding before him. A smartphone screen displays text describing a floating, downy creature in a straw garment with two small horns. The text states the creature is too peculiar to be a fairy, too malicious to be an angel, and too innocent to be a devil. Dacha stands with other passengers in a crowded train car as a glowing, pulsating entity materializes above the doors. The small, downy creature glows while the crowd stares up at it. Text on a screen describes the entity as a peculiar, innocent-looking, and malicious creature. Dokja and Sangha look up, their faces contorted in shock and disbelief at an unseen phenomenon. Sangha stares with her mouth agape, muttering in confusion, while Dokja's eyes widen in dawning horror. Bihyung, a small and fluffy-horned creature, hovers within a purple aura and wears a playful expression. Dokja stares forward, his eyes wide and intense. Dokja and Sangha stand within a panicked, murmuring crowd inside the subway car, everyone staring in terror at the back of a large, fluffy, horned creature standing before them. Fiction and reality overlapped. Bihyung sniffs the air intently before shouting with a wide, excited grin. Commuters on the train react with confusion, fear, and disgust. They question what they are seeing, asking if it's augmented reality and calling it ugly. Amidst the chaos, Namwoon holds up his phone and records the event, understanding the situation while everyone else panics. Dokja and the other passengers look up from inside the vehicle with expressions of shock and fear as he recognizes the creature above them is a dokaibi, the same one that appeared in the opening of the novel and heralded the long tragedy that followed. Dokya squeezes his smartphone tightly, unable to process the impossible situation as he realizes the very same dokaibi from the story is now standing right in front of him. Dokja and the woman stand together, their eyes wide with concern as she notes the creature seems to be speaking Spanish and asks him if she should try talking to it. Dokja panics in the crowded subway car, shouting at the woman that they don't know what the creature is. He sarcastically asks if she plans to ask it for money, insisting its strange words won't help them before he stammers and trails off. Bihyung, a large white dokaibi with horns, tests his broadcast, asking if everyone can hear him and explaining that the language patch was malfunctioning. He repeats his question, then abruptly confronts someone, asking what they think they are doing. Namwoon, wearing a backpack, asks Bihyung if they are filming a movie because he needs to get to his audition. Dokja looks on in complete disbelief while Bihyung silently observes the confused human. Bihyung floats in the train car and laughs about an audition, stating he should have done more research on when to set up a paywall for the most customers. Dokja questions what on earth Bihyung is talking about. Bihyung floats in the train car, telling the passengers to calm down and take a seat for an important announcement. The passengers shout back, demanding the train be started. Dokja and Huiwan stand in the crowd, observing the unfolding situation. A crowd protests, demanding consent and compensation as a woman records on her smartphone, while her young daughter points and asks if she is watching a cartoon. The crowd shouts with intense, open-mouthed expressions, one person raising a fist as they scream, "I know exactly how this story goes." Dokja grabs Sangha's arm, telling her not to move while he thinks about how to stop them. Sangha looks at him with a concerned expression as an unseen entity laughs. Bihyung hovers above the dense crowd, commenting on the noise as Sangha looks up at him with a nervous expression. The monster with glowing red eyes roars before an unseen impact hits it, causing blood to splatter and shock Dokja and the nearby humans. A person sways unsteadily on their feet, their legs, and the legs of someone next to them are covered in fresh blood, which also spatters the ground. Dokja and Sangha stare with shocked expressions as a person in front of them erupts into a violent splatter of dark blood. The crowd frantically scatters in every direction, fleeing from a large blood splatter on the ground as red and pink light streaks through the area. Bihyung's grinning mouth and single red eye appear in the air, announcing that the situation is not a movie, a dream, or a novel. People inside the train car explode into blood and gore. Dokja and Sangha watch the carnage, their faces frozen in horror. Dokya's expression is strained and intense, a drop of sweat on his face as his doubt and disbelief fade, forcing him to admit the situation is real. Blood splatters across the dark floor, quickly covering the surface. Dokja's voice fills the bus, questioning the passengers about their cushy lives as particles materialize in the air, causing a younger and an older man to recoil in terror. Bihyong, a small-horned creature, grins widely and shouts gleefully while surrounded by sparkling energy, accusing them of living privileged lives by being able to breathe, eat, excrete, and reproduce without paying the costs as Dokja listens intently. Bihyong, a small white creature with horns, radiates a powerful energy, his eyes glowing intensely. He wears a wide, sinister grin and states it is all over now, asking if anything in life is free. Huiwan is crushed by an unseen pressure in the cramped space, his face twisting in agony as the other men recoil in terror. Bihyong, a small, fluffy white creature, hovers above Dokja's head. He asks if it is money they want. Namwoon and Huiwan stare in complete shock. Dokja glares intently at the fluffy, horned Bihyong as glowing blue particles drift around them. Dokja looks off-panel with a concerned expression and asks Sangha if she recognizes Mr. Han from the finance team, noting the man was only employed because of his connections, and Sangha confirms his identity with a worried look. Bihyong, dressed in a pinstripe suit, offers money to the people inside the train car, telling them he will give them as much as they want and asking if they need 1 million or perhaps 2 million. A man in a suit frantically rummages through his briefcase, offering money to the small horned Dokja and promising to give him even more if he is set free. Bihyong grins widely as he fans out a stack of banknotes. Bihyong screams in shock, his eyes wide behind his glasses as his entire body cracks and shatters into fiery fragments. Bihyong kneels on the ground, enveloped in golden energy and groaning in pain as an unseen voice warns that his head will be blown up if he ever pulls a similar stunt again. Bihyong appears with a frustrated expression, stating there is no time for chit-chat because their debt is piling up. He refuses to explain the details, telling them it's faster to earn the money themselves before he snaps his fingers. Bihyong, a small horned creature, bursts violently through the train's ceiling, scattering blood over the car as Dokja, Namwoon, Huiwan, and Sangha react in horror. Dokja and the surrounding people react with shock and confusion as multiple glowing blue screens suddenly appear around them. A man stares in shock at a blue holographic notification, while a woman looks on in fear at her own screen, but Namwoon smirks as a panel appears in front of him. Dokja's eyes widen in surprise as a glowing blue holographic system display appears in front of him. Dokja's eyes widen as a blue holographic message box appears, announcing the main scenario has arrived. A blue holographic system window appears, announcing the first main scenario titled Prove Your Value. The objective is to kill one or more living organisms within a 30-minute time limit for a reward of 300 coins, but the penalty for failure is death. Bihyong tells the distressed man inside the vehicle, "Well, good luck everyone." Bihyong grins menacingly with glowing pink eyes and states that he expects to see an interesting story. A brilliant flash of light erupts from the center of the group, causing glowing blue system interfaces to appear around Dokja and the others. The subway passengers murmur with shock and unease, looking around the train car. Dokja remains calm amidst the growing commotion, holding a device in his hand. Sangha clenches her teeth and grips her ringing smartphone, seeing the incoming call is from the police. Sangha holds her phone in a panic, yelling that the police aren't picking up as a man beside her tells her to stay calm. Dokja leans in to question Sangha about a game their development team is working on, specifically one where only a few people survive an apocalypse, causing Sangha to react with surprise and anxiety as she asks about its relevance. Dokja places his hands on Sangha's shoulders and speaks to her from inside the train, his gaze fixed on the desolate, debris-filled landscape outside. Sangha listens intently with wide, concerned eyes as sweat beads on her face. She questions the mention of a game and its rules while a blue system interface glows nearby. Dokja speaks with a stressed and intent expression, insisting they just have to figure out what the rules are. Dokja and Sangha stand in the crowded subway car, looking around with uneasy expressions as glowing particles float through the air. Bihyong, a fluffy white dokaibi with glowing yellow antennae, peers forward with dark eyes and a wide, fanged grin. Dead bodies litter the floor of the subway cabin, covered in blood as glowing particles flow through the air. Dokja and Sangha tremble in a confined space, their bodies covered in blood. An old lady sits in a vehicle, clasping her hands together and praying fervently with a distressed expression. Dokja stands inside the subway car with Sangha as glowing particles fill the air. He internally struggles with his disbelief, realizing he can no longer deny that this is really happening. Namwoon panics and repeatedly hits an unseen barrier, screaming for someone to break the door open with a hammer while Dokja calmly observes him. He realizes the novel he has been reading for over 10 years, 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, is coming to life right before his eyes. Doksha holds his phone with a stressed expression, then touches his eye and sighs as he thinks about what he needs to do to survive. A blue holographic window displays the details for main scenario 1-1, Prove Your Value, which demands the killing of 1 or more living organisms within a 30-minute time limit for a reward of 300 coins, stating the penalty for failure is death. A detailed subway map hangs on the wall inside the train car, while a person shouts for everyone to calm down. A man with a serious expression confronts Dokja and Sangha, ordering them to take a deep breath and stop what they are doing. Dokja stands in the subway car, gesturing to get the passengers' attention. He asks if they have calmed down, explaining that in a national emergency, even a small commotion can lead to casualties, and declares he will now take charge of the situation. Dokja reacts with shock as a man reveals a government ID card identifying him as Hyun-sung Lee from the Ministry of Defense, and he yells, demanding to know who the man is and what he means by a national emergency. A man holds up an ID badge, revealing his identity as an army lieutenant from Unit 6502. Dokja stands with a surprised expression as the surrounding crowd murmurs, questioning if he is a lieutenant from the military. A man in the subway car looks at his phone and announces he received a message from his unit. Dokja, Huiwon, and Namwon turn toward him with concerned expressions as the other passengers react with surprise. Dokja holds his smartphone, his face frozen in shock as he reads a Level 1 national emergency alert ordering an immediate return to his unit. A man in a white shirt clutches his chest and shouts at a soldier, demanding to know what is happening. He yells that he cannot reach the army base and insists the soldier contact the president immediately while other passengers look on. Doksha stands inside the damaged train carriage surrounded by glowing blue particles, looking stressed as he converses with 2 women and explains he already knew this would become a national emergency. Doksha recalls what surprised him regarding Lieutenant Hyun-sung Lee's purpose for everyone's safety, a drop of sweat forming on his temple. Dokja stands in the crowded subway car with his eyes wide and hands slightly raised in surprise as he realizes he knows the person by name, despite never having seen him before. Dokja recognizes the man as Steelblade Hyun-sung Lee, a Republic of Korea Army lieutenant, and recalls he was one of the supporting characters in TWSA. Dokja scratches his head with his phone, his expression stressed and pensive as he contemplates the appearance of a character from the novel. Dokja holds his smartphone, its screen displaying the single word, "Stop." Dokja stands in the dark, watching the startled group through floating particles as he internally questions if this is how Hyun-sung Lee was introduced in the original story. Dokja grows confused, recalling with certainty that Hyun-sung Lee was not supposed to appear until after the first scenario, and questions what is going on. Dokja observes the passengers on the crowded train as they panic over an emergency alert on their phones, with Phoebe shouting that the Prime Minister has declared a Level 1 national emergency. Sangha urgently points at her smartphone screen, showing Dokja a message that begins, "Dear citizens of Korea." Dokja holds his phone, watching a news report detail unidentified terrorist attacks across the country, and he remembers this event was in the story he read, thinking it sounds ridiculous now that it's happening. A group of young people gathers, looking at their smartphones with concerned and shocked expressions as they question the news about the president. Dokja observes from the background as the group argues over a rumor found in a video's comments section. The train car shakes violently from a series of loud impacts, throwing the passengers into chaos as they scream and fall to the floor in terror. A news report displays the bloodied, deceased body of the Prime Minister as on-screen text announces a Level 1 national emergency and unidentified terrorist attacks. A screen distorts with static, displaying a fragmented emergency news broadcast about terrorist attacks. Dokja is struck from behind by a glitching force, blood splattering from the impact as he yells defiantly. Bi-hyung, a monstrous furry creature with horns and glowing red eyes, opens his mouth wide and lets out a scream of pure rage. Dokja and Sangha stand with distressed expressions among the others as a disembodied voice taunts their confusion, mockingly asking if they believe the situation is a game. Dokja's hand squeezes a control mechanism as he announces his intention to raise the difficulty. A bright flash erupts inside the crowded subway car, making the passengers recoil in surprise. A glowing digital timer materializes in the air, its display showing the numbers 2422. A blue digital timer appears on a dark background, displaying the time 2041. A system message declares the remaining time has been reduced, and a digital timer displays 23 minutes and 19 seconds. The onlookers react with alarm as a large, glowing digital timer displays 1 second, and a system message announces they have 10 minutes remaining. A blue holographic screen displays the details for main scenario 1 Prove Your Value, an F difficulty mission to kill one or more living organisms within 30 minutes for a 300 coin reward. The penalty for failure is death. A blue system message appears, detailing a main mission with an F-rank difficulty and a 10-minute time limit. The reward is 300 coins, but the penalty for failure is death. A system message declares a new penalty. The first death must occur within 5 minutes or every living organism in the cabin will be terminated. A digital timer floats in the car, displaying 09059. Panicked passengers scream inside the subway car, questioning if the event is a sick joke and demanding to know where the police are. One passenger shouts at Huaiwan, the army man, asking what to do. Huaiwan stands and attempts to calm the agitated crowd, telling them to listen to him. Sangha, visibly startled, grips Dokja's arm tightly while he stands calmly beside her. Dokja confirms the events are unfolding exactly as he remembers them, yet his expression remains concerned as he cannot shake the feeling that something is wrong. Hyunsong Lee appears before Dokja with a shocked and distressed expression, raising his hands in a defensive posture as Dokja realizes a major supporting character has emerged far earlier than expected. Dokja stands with his back turned, his form a shimmering silhouette surrounded by glowing specks as he looks over his shoulder and questions why another has not yet appeared. Dokja sits in the subway car with his eyes wide in panic as glowing particles materialize around the other commuters, and he inwardly shrieks, remembering someone is due to arrive. The train cabin doors bend inward from an external force, their windows smeared with blood as a person struggles to hold them shut, screaming that someone has been murdered in the car behind them and that no one should be allowed through. A hand thrusts forward, generating a field of yellow electrical sparks to block an unseen force. Dokhwa touches the glowing panel and violently recoils as a powerful electrical discharge shocks him. A man on the train presses his hand against an invisible wall blocking the open doorway, yelling in confusion as Dokja, Sangha, and other passengers look on in alarm. Dokja looks up as a glowing system message appears in the air, declaring that no one may enter or leave the cabin until the scenario is complete, while blue energy crackles across the train car floor. A hand holds a mobile device displaying a live stream where Bihayong, a small white-horned monster, grins widely with a toothy mouth and announces that the situation is getting interesting for some cabins. Bihayong snaps his furry white fingers, creating a small spark as energy lines radiate outward, and he declares he will show what happens if no action is taken in the next 5 minutes. A holographic projection suddenly appears in the middle of the subway car, displaying a distressed classroom scene. The passengers turn and stare at the unexpected image with apprehension. Dokja looks at the projection with a bewildered expression, raising one hand to his face. Dokja stares forward with a worried expression, her vision glitching as she identifies the location as Taipong Girls High School. A violent impact throws the passengers from their seats as people in formal attire scream and fall through the air in a chaotic scene. A glowing hexagonal system window appears, displaying a critical message that the time limit has been exceeded. The system window announces it is proceeding with checkout, causing a nearby man's head to explode in a spray of blood. Dokja flinches back in shock, his face splattered as Sangha and the others stare in horror. Students scream and beg for help as their bodies glitch and violently disintegrate into bloody splatters. Dokja and his companions stand completely frozen, their faces filled with shock and horror as a shimmering blue aura envelops them. Dokja and Sangha stare forward, their eyes wide with shock and confusion. Dokja clenches his hands over his chest as a blue light glows from within him. The dark-haired figure forcefully chokes another person by the neck, lifting them inside a brightly lit, glitching classroom. Hands grip Dokja's neck, trembling inside a luminous, glitch-like aura. They slide down his upper chest. Huaiwan, Dokja, and Sangha react in alarm to a sudden crash, their eyes widening in fear. Dokja strains and breathes heavily, his body enveloped in a glitching blue light. Dokja stares forward with a serious expression, a cut on his cheek, as a system message glitches into view announcing Jihai Lee is the survivor of Channel LL Bay Way 23515. Jihai Lee stands silhouetted against the windows of an empty, glitching classroom, identified as the second-year Class B survivor from Taipong Girls High School on Channel SABA Way 23515. A glitching, monstrous smile looms, laughing as it asks Dokja if he is having fun. Dokja looks on with a strained and wary expression. Dokja staggers backward, his foot slipping as he loses his balance amidst glowing particles. Y1 sneaks past terrified passengers in the subway car as glowing blue particles begin to fill the air. Dokja stands in a subway car filled with dead and panicking passengers as a large blue holographic screen materializes in the air. He yells in confusion, demanding to know what is happening. One person's leg buckles, causing them to stagger across the textured ground amidst several other pairs of feet and faint glowing particles. The subway passengers react with alarm and fear as mysterious particles begin to shimmer in the air. Huiwon and Dokja stand among the panicked crowd, observing the chaotic scene inside the train car. A glowing blue holographic screen appears inside a crowded subway car, where terrified and injured passengers scream in confusion amidst bloodstains on the floor. A hand with manicured nails touches a person's chest, causing them to flinch away from the contact. Dokja holds his phone while Sangha stands beside him, trembling with fear on the train. Dokja looks to the side with a concerned expression, thinking something is strange. A thought echoes, questioning why he hasn't appeared yet. Dokja stands on a crowded subway, staring intently at his smartphone with an overwhelmed expression as he processes familiar and unknown events happening all at once. Dokja grips his smartphone, desperately searching for the web novel. He finds only a "no results were found" error message. He stares in frustration, realizing the series has been completely removed. Dokja stares intensely, his wide eye reflecting a glowing blue light. Dogwa stares at his smartphone in shock, reading an email notification that TWSA will become paid content at 7 p.m. as a finger taps to open an attached file. Dokja's eyes widen in intense shock. Dokja's finger touches the screen, pointing to an attached file titled 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse TXT. Dokja holds his smartphone, his eyes wide with shock as he stares at the screen. Dokja rubs his eyes and then stares at his smartphone, his own eyes widening in shock. A digital interface displays a save all command for a file named the Apocalypse DXTs next to download and cloud save icons. Dokja covers his mouth with his smartphone, looking shocked and bewildered. He internally questions if the author sent him the entire novel as a gift and wonders about the legality of the file sharing. Dokja reads 2 blue system messages announcing he has received an exclusive attribute and an unlocked skill slot, realizing every TWSA survivor is given a special attribute and a linked skill. Dokja stares pensively at 2 glowing holographic interface screens, a bead of sweat on his face. Dokja narrows one eye in concentration, deciding to check his attributes window to figure out his personal attribute. Dokja's eyes widen as he reads the glowing blue system message in front of him, which states that his attributes cannot be opened. He reads the system message stating the attributes window cannot be opened and questions it in disbelief. Dokja repeatedly tries to open his attributes window, but each attempt is met with an error message. He questions what is happening, realizing he can't access his attributes or skills. Dokja holds 2 glowing blue holographic screens, his eyes wide with shock. Dokja holds his smartphone, looking at the glowing holographic screen as he decides to read the attached file, and a fragmented system message appears. A blue system notification appears, informing Dokja that his attribute has been activated, allowing him to read at a faster speed. Dokja's eye glows with a blue light, widening in shock as system text materializes in his vision and sweat forms on his face. Dokja stares in shock, clutching his smartphone as glittering particles materialize around him. A foot slams down nearby, and he questions if this power is his attribute, realizing he just read an entire chapter in under a minute. Dokja's eye glows with a bright blue light as a realization strikes him. Dokja observes the people in subway cabin 377, their faces frozen in fear. He feels no remorse and promises himself not to make a mistake. He resolves to do whatever it takes to succeed as a flame sparks from his hand. Dokja sweats with a worried expression, looking intently to the side at a door marked with the number 3807 and a small. Dokja looks at the train cabin door marked 377 and realizes it is the source of his unease. He looks through the connecting door into the next subway cabin, which is filled with dead passengers and soaked in blood, and sees a single figure standing alone among the bodies. Dokja stands frozen with a shocked expression while holding his phone, a terrible realization dawning on him. Sangha looks over at him from the side with an expression of deep concern. Sangha looks at Dokja with a worried expression, asking if they should try to stop the chaos he had just peeked at in subway cabin 3807. Dokja looks over his shoulder with a grim expression, stating it is probably too late for the others because only 2 people will survive in that cabin. Someone screams, demanding to know where the hell he thinks he's going. Dokja is grabbed forcefully by his collar, letting out a pained grunt. An unseen hand grips Namwoon by the chest as he struggles and begs to be let go. Dokja is violently struck across the chest by a glowing red energy beam, blood splattering from the impact. Namwoon glares intensely with gritted teeth, his eyes glowing red. He raises a hand in a commanding gesture and shouts at them to shut up. Sangha reels back in terror from an impact as Dokja stares, realizing she will probably die. Dokja holds his smartphone, reading the text displayed on the screen. The message states that everyone in the cabin will die, with the only survivors being Hyunzong Lee and Namwon Kim. Dokja internally dismisses this, deciding that the only people who matter are a select few, including himself. Namwon forcefully grabs Dokja by the throat, demanding to know what he is doing. Namwon aggressively grips the arm of a white-haired individual whose eyes glow red, shouting at them about respecting their elders. Dokja and Sangha stare forward with shocked expressions, recognizing the figure of Mr. Han. Namwon glares forward with glowing red eyes, clenching his fist in intense confusion. Namwon grabs a suited man by the collar and aggressively yells in his face while another person lies slumped on the ground nearby. Dokja urgently points towards a glowing blue holographic interface inside the crowded train, demanding the other passengers look at it. Passengers scream and attack one another inside the subway car in a desperate frenzy. They plead for help while others shout threats, creating a scene of total chaos. Dokja and Namwon stand together in the middle of the carnage, observing the unfolding violence. Dokja watches in horror as a hand taps a glowing screen, selecting a victim who pleads for their life. The killer ruthlessly confirms the selection on the digital interface, silencing the person and cutting off their final words. Namwon grips a bloodied man's shoulder, his eyes glowing red as he states they have to pick the ones who will die. Bi-hyung flinches, sweat forming on his face as he grimaces in pain. Dokja speaks intensely to a distressed Sangha, his face stern as glowing particles drift around them in the dark. Namwon stands with glowing red eyes and a dark aura as reality shatters behind him, declaring it is kill or be killed because the world they knew has just ended, and there are now new rules to follow. Namwon Kim stands in a subway car, his white hair and face spattered with blood. He wears a maniacal grin as he violently attacks the people around him, one of the first to accept this new world. A distressed woman urgently tells Dokja that it was Namwon Kim who drove a wedge into the crack. Then she shouts at everyone, asking if they are just going to sit and watch and if they all want to die. Namwon and a group of people violently beat a defiant, blood-covered man on the subway train, ranting about the destruction of morality. Dokja takes multiple hits, his expression twisting in annoyance as he clenches a fist while a woman hides behind his back. An ultimatum declares that if no one dies in the next 5 minutes, everyone will die, causing the people to immediately attack each other with desperate expressions as their faces become splattered with blood. Dokja's hand is covered in blood, with more splattered nearby from a violent impact, as he suddenly recalled a line he had read a long time ago. Executioners pull the levers of the electric chair at the same time, causing a blood-splattered man in a suit to react with a distressed expression as the person in front of him is electrocuted. Dokja looks shocked while holding a container, a dark, blood-splattered presence standing beside him. Dokja stares forward with a concerned and pensive expression, feeling as if he were reading a specific part of the novel. Dokja and Sangha stand together, observing from a distance as a red laser beam fires down at a group of people below. Dokja's hand grips his black smartphone tightly as he questions if it is fair to watch her die just so he can live. Sangha yells in alarm as she and Dokja sprint forward with urgent expressions. Dokja forcefully grabs a woman's arm, holding her back from a dangerous glowing space while warning her not to be reckless because she will be killed as she goes forward. Dokja looks intently at Sangha, who appears distressed and agitated as he calls out her name. Sangha's eyes widen in terror, her expression distressed as an unseen hand holds her back. Dokja rests his hand on the distressed Sangha's shoulder with a serious, resigned expression, realizing she cannot change the story because she is not the heroine of this world. Dokja grabs Sangha's arm, stopping her inside the train car. He tells her to stay here. Sangha protests, but Dokja pleads for her to listen just this once, promising to leave her alone afterward. Dokja exhales forcefully with a strained expression while Sangha watches him in shock. Dokja clasps his hands with a worried expression, concluding it is too early for him to interfere and that this situation was not part of his plan. Sangha looks toward a shadowy figure standing over a bloody person on the ground, her face frozen in shock as she questions if the man is Dokai. Dokja's face is partially obscured, his expression serious and downturned. Dokja stands inside the subway car with other passengers huddled in the distance, stating he was waiting for the right moment. Dokja shouts and an explosion erupts inside the subway car, impacting Sangha. He watches the chaos with intense, focused eyes. A burst of speed and light streaks horizontally. Dokja unleashes a burst of golden energy, sending a man in a suit flying backward through the air while Huiwen and Namwon lie defeated on the ground below. A blue holographic screen announces, Main Scenario 1 Prove Your Value. The objective is to kill one or more living organisms within a 30-minute time limit for 300 coins, and the penalty for failure is death. A timer shows only 10 minutes remaining. A blue holographic display shows a countdown timer with 7 minutes and 32 seconds remaining. An explosion rips through the train car, scattering debris and startling Sangha, who flinches from the blast. He dashes forward in a burst of speed. A dark, smoke-like aura erupts from Namun, expanding instantly to engulf the falling Dokja and Sangha, who question the sudden appearance of the smoke. Dokja sprints forward with an intense, determined expression, while Namun reacts with sudden surprise and alarm. Dokja grabs Namun and slams him onto the floor of the train. Dokja sends Namun flying backward with a powerful blow, causing him to smash through a collapsing structure while screaming in shock. A metallic, door-like structure erupts with a brilliant golden light, releasing thick smoke and scattering glowing particles. Namun screams in pure fury, demanding to know what the problem is as an unseen force blurs past him at high speed. He explains that while it seemed he pushed Namun Kim to save the old lady, this was not his only objective. Dokja frantically searches the area, his expression distressed as he struggles to breathe among the blurred figures surrounding him. Dokja's eye widens in shock as he stares through the mist. Dokja stands calmly and shouts, "Fund it," as surrounding shadowy figures are violently struck and thrown back by an unseen force. A hand suddenly clasps Dokja's shoulder from behind, and he looks up with a wary expression. Dokja presses a thin blade against a man's neck, causing the man to stare back in shock. Dokja strains amidst the sparking chaos, passing a green metallic object to Namun. Dokja shouts at the attacker, pleading for them to stop and warning that killing the old lady will not ensure their own survival. Namun pants heavily, his expression shocked as red particles begin to float around him. He, Dokja, and an ethereal Sangha all stare in shared distress at the particles drifting between them. Dokja sweats with a tense expression as red sparks and steam rise from his body. Dokja's jaw tightens as a bead of sweat rolls down his face, and he thinks to himself that he has successfully gained their attention before contemplating his next move. Dokja leans forward frantically inside the moving vehicle, gesturing with his hand as he speaks with intense urgency about killing the old lady to buy more time. Dokja and Sangha flinch, their faces showing expressions of shock and distress. The survivors stare at the body on the ground, the Dokaibi's words hanging in the air. Dokja and Sangha flinch as the group realizes they each have to kill one person. They look at each other with suspicion, questioning who will kill the person beside them. Bihyung laughs, revealing a wide, sharp-toothed grin. Namun hunches over, looking down and laughing to himself as sparks fly in the dark space around him. Namun grins while threatening to kill the losers next, declaring the chances are 50-50 as Dokja watches him with a concerned expression. Dokja smirks confidently, having anticipated the exact reply. The other survivors question why they must gamble their lives when there's a way to survive without murder, and Namun looks up with a sudden realization. Namun looks upward with glowing red eyes and gritted teeth, stating that the scenario never specified they had to kill a human being before clicking his tongue. Dokja gently holds a large, cricket-like insect in his hand as he processes the message that they must kill one or more living organisms. Dokja stands calmly inside the subway car, holding a small insect-like creature in one hand and a transparent container in the other as a fiery aura and glowing particles surround him. Dokja stares at a hand holding a clear container filled with several large, brown insects. Namun and another man stare forward with wide-eyed, panicked expressions, a silhouetted figure visible between them. The madness that had driven them to kill the old lady erupts from a screaming figure who stands with outstretched hands amidst a reddish-orange aura. Dokja recoils in panic as a destructive, fragmented energy force surges directly toward him. He questions why his heart beats with joy in this precarious situation. Dokja smiles widely, his expression strained as sweat drips down his face. Dokja manifests as a dark, shadowy mass emerging from a fiery background, his form filled with numerous glowing red eyes and multiple reaching hands as he wonders if he was always this kind of person. Dokja clenches his fist, crushing the insect inside and splattering green liquid. Dokja violently kicks a giant insect in the middle of the chaotic swarm. Namun shouts in surprise at the move while Sangha and Huiwan look on in fear. 2 blue system messages appear, announcing the first kill mission has been accomplished and that 100 coins will be received as a bonus. Dokja stands inside the damaged train car, looking down at the defeated men on the floor while Namun screams and points at him from the ground. Dokja sweats heavily, panting as he struggles to get his words out. A digital timer displays 3 minutes and 12 seconds as a voice shouts that time is running out, demanding to know why someone took a certain action. Dokja stands in a dim subway car observing glowing orange light and particles filling the air as a translucent entity with red eyes manifests in front of him. Namun leans against a metallic door, speaking to a suited man whose back is turned and tells him he could have just handed over the bugs. Namun's red eyes widen as he processes a confusing thought about the 3 remaining insects. Namwoon laughs hysterically inside the blood-splattered train car, asking if Dokja threw the others away because not all of them could live, and Dokja confirms his question with a simple yes. Dokja laughs and calls the idea ridiculous, his expression then shifting to confusion as red particles begin to glow around him inside the train. He concludes, no one in their right mind would pull a stunt like this for such a stupid reason. Namwoon holds his neck and grins from the shadows, his eyes glowing red as he asks them to be honest about wanting to watch people fight for their lives. Dokja has a concerned expression as a system notification appears in front of him, activating his personal skill, character profile. A system window appears, showing the character profile of Namwoon Kim, who grins sinisterly behind the text. The profile lists his age as 19, his personal attribute as edgelord, and his skills as exceptional adaptability, knife fighting, and grim dark awakening. A general evaluation warns that it is best not to get involved with him. Dokja stares at a glowing holographic screen, realizing his attributes as a voice explains that Namwoon Kim was an edgelord who survived when the nightmare became reality, unlike others who committed suicide. Namwoon Kim, a boy with white hair and red eyes, grins menacingly as he is introduced as the delusional demon, a boy who would later be called edgelord and was no ordinary one. Namwoon Kim smirks with glowing red eyes, having waited a long time for the apocalypse and adapting to it with unusual speed. He proposes they team up as a system notification announces his interest. Dokja looks to the side as a blue system message appears, notifying him that his understanding of Namwoon Kim has increased, and he concludes that Namwoon wants to join forces with him. A system window details main scenario 1, prove your value, with the objective to kill one or more living organisms. The quest category is main, the difficulty is F, and the 30-minute time limit has counted down to 10 minutes. The reward is 300 coins, and the penalty for failure is death. A blue system interface appears, displaying the remaining time as 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Dokja looks past his hand at the devastated subway car interior where intense flames engulf the wreckage and multiple bodies lie scattered on the floor. A metal panel displays the number 3707 as flames and embers burn around it. Dokja pins a figure to the ground with his boot. Dokwa stands with his back turned, observing the chaotic scene of fire, smoke, and embers. Indistinct figures move through smoke and debris, visible on 2 shattered, glowing orange screens. A voice shouts, demanding to know where something went. He yells that it was right there just now and orders everyone to move, determined to catch it. Namwoon stands over the incapacitated figures, surrounded by smoke and splattered blood on the ground. He states he is sorry because he works alone. Namwoon appears uneasy with a bead of sweat on his face, while Dokja's eyes are wide with intense shock. Dokja stands in the blood-splattered train car and thinks about his decision, believing a team-up with Namwoon Kim would have guaranteed his survival. He reflects that without his knowledge from reading the novel, he would have made a different choice. Namwoon smirks confidently as he places a hand on the black-haired man's shoulder, declaring that he is a reader who knows his future. He tells the man to get out of his way, stating he has unfinished business with the granny. Namwoon grins with menacing red eyes, a bruised and bloody hand appearing next to him. He says he cannot let the bug he caught escape from his grasp. A smaller hand in a green sleeve forcefully grabs the larger hand. Namwoon and Dokja stand opposite each other, locked in a silent confrontation. Namwoon glares with intense red eyes, his expression agitated as he yells, questioning if Dokja is trying to be a hero or if he has a split personality. Dokja looks over his shoulder with wide, intense eyes and a sinister smile, thinking about how all know-it-alls are the same and how they naively believe they will be teenagers forever. Namwoon angrily confronts Dokja, telling him that people like him are sickening as Dokja receives system messages stating that Namwoon despises him and that his affinity has slightly decreased. Namwoon emanates purple energy, glaring intensely at Dokja, who watches him with a wary expression. Namwoon's eyes glow purple as a matching aura erupts around his body, and he unleashes a wide swing of violent energy. Namwoon and Dokja stare each other down as purple energy swirls between them, Namwoon smirking with satisfaction as he recognizes Dokja is exactly the opponent he anticipated. Namwoon slams his glowing purple fist into the suited man, who recoils in pain from the impact. Dokja watches with wide, shocked eyes, recognizing the glowing purple aura as the skill of the edgelord attribute. A black-haired man watches in shock as the masked Namwoon attacks, enveloped in dark energy from his activated skill, Grim Dark Awakening Level 1. Dokja unleashes a purple energy blast from his fist, engulfing Namwoon in the attack. Namwoon grins maniacally as he unleashes powerful dark purple energy from his hand, roaring about his newfound strength as fragments of power crackle around him. Namwoon grits his teeth, his red eye glowing as purple energy emanates from his body. Dokja clutches his head as a system notification announces his increased understanding of Namwoon Kim, and he questions whether to use this new power while purple energy pulses around him. A system message announces the unlocking of the Level 1 personal skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Dokja stares up with wide eyes at a system message announcing he has unlocked Level 1 of his personal skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. An unknown voice questions the exact meaning of the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Smoke and lingering sparks fill the interior of the train car as a voice shouts in frustration, demanding to know where the insects went. Dokja flinches as a sudden explosion erupts, his eyes widening in shock. He stares with his mouth agape as chaos unfolds around him, shouting in confusion about what is happening. Namwoon strikes Dokja, their clash erupting in a blast of purple energy. Namwoon wears a furious expression as he unleashes a blast of purple energy. The white-haired man swings his weapon infused with purple energy, striking Namwoon, who screams and reels back in pain. Namwoon screams in frustration, his eyes glowing purple and radiating energy as he demands to know why his opponent isn't getting hit. Dokja speaks with a tense, determined expression as a system message announces the activation of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Level 1. He teleports directly to the right shoulder. Dokja's pupil emits a concentrated blue light as he activates an ability. Namwoon, emanating purple energy, drives his fist into the white-haired man, striking him with immense force. Namwoon's purple eyes glow as he delivers a kick, his foot surrounded by dark energy, straight into his opponent's face. The white-haired character unleashes a purple energy blast, striking a surprised Dokja and forcing him to recoil from the impact. He activated his second skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Dokja grimaces, his expression tight with intensity as he powerfully clenches his fist. He knew his opponent's next move, as if he could read his mind. A flash of light explodes outward, sending purple debris scattering against the dark metal background. Namwoon, surrounded by glowing purple energy, violently punches the dark-haired man in the back while screaming in pure rage. Namwoon charges forward, enveloped in a purple aura, while the injured Dokja struggles to dodge his attacks. Dokja focuses solely on evasion, unable to retaliate, knowing he just needs to hold on a little longer. Namwoon confronts a distressed Dokja inside the subway car, surrounded by bodies on the floor. He shouts that only 2 minutes are left as a digital timer counts down. Namwoon glares intensely, his eyes wide and locked in sharp focus. Dokja looks startled at an injured old woman lying amidst bloodstains, realizing her death will allow Namwoon to clear the scenario. Dokja, injured yet determined, reaches for the menacing Namwoon behind him, resolving that he must prevent him from moving on to the next scenario. Dokja smirks confidently behind his sunglasses, facing the surprised man lunging with a glowing knife. He stands perfectly still, having anticipated the attack completely. Dokja laughs, declaring he knew his opponent would make that exact move. The words "heart" and "WHI" materialize in glowing white text against a glitching blue background. Namwoon drives a glowing knife into Dokja's side as a system window appears, announcing the activation of the skill Knife Fighting Levi. 1. Namwoon unleashes a slash of purple energy, and the injured Dokja moves to shield an ally from the incoming attack. Dokja grimaces in agony as a dark, corrosive energy spreads across his chest. He feels his skin burning and realizes his opponent is a military geek. Namwoon kneels, gripping a knife plunged into the ground as dark purple energy radiates from the blade. Dokja grunts, straining as he carries an injured man over his shoulder while faint purple particles swirl around him. Dokja carefully carries an injured person to the blood-splattered subway car, his shoe becoming stained with blood as he steps forward. Text appears, declaring that death is just around the corner. Dokja panics, his face drenched in sweat as he realizes losing to Namwoon Kim means he will die in a world based solely on survival of the fittest. A voice denies this, stating the world has always been this way. Dokja steps on a man in a suit, pinning him to the ground as the man covers his head. Dokja stands with his head bowed as numerous papers fall around him. Namwoon holds a small blade, taunting his weakened opponent who is partially obscured by smoke. He tells the man he no longer has the strength to run and demands they get the fight over with quickly. Dokja stares forward with intense focus, his eye wide and his expression determined. A critical thought emerges: if I hesitate. Namwoon Kim, a second-year student at Cheongil High School, stands smugly before he is asked if an insect egg is an organism, causing him to react with confusion and demand what the hell they are talking about. Dokja stands with a determined expression amidst the smoke, glowing specks covering his clothes as he clenches his fist around a golden, bullet-like object. Dokja punches forward with a pained and determined expression as multiple system windows flash around him, each one announcing he has killed a living organism and obtained 100 bonus coins. Namwoon grips a small knife, his face twisted in distress as a smoky, volatile aura envelops him. Namwoon lunges with a knife radiating purple energy as Dokja looks on in shock at a system notification offering a tutorial on coin usage. Dokja invests 2,700 coins into his stamina, causing his stamina level to jump from 1 to 10. The system confirms his stamina level is considerably enhanced and his physical durability has greatly increased. A knife wreathed in purple energy plunges toward Dokja's chest. A sharp metallic object strikes a surface of blue and purple energy, creating a powerful impact. Namwoon stabs forward with a shocked expression, but his blade stops dead against his target's body as it emits blue particles, completely resisting the attack. Namwoon stumbles backward as glowing particles swirl around his body, his face contorted in shock and confusion as he questions what is happening. Dokja stands determined in the chaotic train car, his eyes glowing as red and blue energy particles swirl around him. A blue digital interface displays a countdown timer with 57 seconds remaining. Namwoon smiles maniacally, his intense red eyes wide while sweat pours down his face. Dokja and Namwoon appear in the scene. Namwoon's eyes widen in panic as he grits his teeth in agony, powerful purple energy streaking across his face. Dokja moves at high speed, his face streaked with glowing blue and purple energy. A countdown timer ticks down from 4 seconds to 0, followed by a system message stating that time has run out and it is proceeding with checkout. Blood explodes outward from a violent impact, followed by a scream of denial and agony. A blue system window appears, announcing the end of main scenario 1 Prove Your Value, and confirms that 5 survivors remain in cabin number 3.